close on a knife's edge for such long extended periods that you've got to just think about game 2, relax a little bit, reconsider how you're going to move forward here for Entity, and of course Aster thinking about how they can close out games a little better.
Yep. I mean, for Aster, at least, as a team, and so far for day 1, group stage has gone really well from them. So, I don't think they're going to be too phased about just a single game loss. I think all in all, they're going to feel like they had a draft. They had, set themselves up to win that game. They just made some small little misplays. That's the kind of loss I think that it's easy to kind of learn from and make some adjustments with.
It's like Lanham comes back in and he's like, wait, we didn't win that game? What happened there?
Yeah, that was perhaps the biggest yawn I've ever seen. Maybe that's the problem.
I wasn't watching. Who was it? Was it the Omni player?
I don't recognize all the players. I want to say it was Siamese Cat. Yeah.
Yeah. He's tired of Omni Night. Give me something a bit more fun. Something with a stun, maybe. And seeing how well Kataomi did.
I mean, if there's a hero to put you to sleep, it may be Omni Night.
That's probably right, yeah.
I don't know how Soniqs does it. He's like the most wired person I know, and he's just spamming Omni Night. Maybe it's you need the balance. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, it's like, I understand Slack's playing Undying and Warlock and stuff like that, but Omni, I don't get it. Do not get it. Anyway, draft for game 2. As we get ourselves deep into day 2 of the group stage here for TI 2022. Lots of 2s, and it's going to be the second ban for Team Aster after this Leshrac. Did we see Enigma contested in the previous game? I've completely forgotten, but I feel like no?
I agree. I think no, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was like Lesh, Pudge, Primal Beast, Marcy, and then we had our drafts, and yeah, Enigma was ignored throughout the entirety. Yeah, Arc Warden being banned out again along with Marcy. So the only change there is Pudge is left in.
Okay, yeah, first phase on the on the Arc Warden ban. That's really up in the ante and elevating this hero to like we don't want anything to do with it. Like you kind of showed game 1 like you'll ban at second phase. So if you're if you want to Arc Warden, you kind of know you got to go first phase, and I think Aster are just trying to preemptively prevent that.
No, Siamese Cat. There we go. Clockwork. Maybe a position 5 hero for him. We'll see where it heads though. He can be in both support roles as Entity. Fishman's, Chen, his Undying. They're always these key options to look for in the first phase, but I think we've still got to highlight the Nyx Assassin from Kataomi as an absolute outstanding performing hero to maybe make it into this first phase for themselves.
Yeah, I'm on board with it. I think it's easy to build around. It kind of goes, you can draft anything with the Nyx Assassin. It doesn't really limit you. Maybe limits your offlane a tiny bit, but once again, Entity go for the Brood. Despite it, it wasn't unimpactful, but it was definitely something that felt like Aster had answers for in game number 1.
Yeah, is it the double insect, double arachnid, whatever again? Brood plus Nyx Assassin.
It worked game 1. Unless they filled the Nyx, the Nyx against Clockwork is a bit of a Clockwork favored matchup, particularly if they end up laning against each other. And Entity doubled down on Silencer. I think similar to the Arc Warden, it's like when these heroes, you don't pick it now, there's a good chance it gets banned, given that they picked it back in game number 1. So making sure they get their hands on it.
Yeah, it is going to give the option here for Aster to ban out your Bat Riders and things like that up against Stormstormer, though. So remove a couple of his options. Yeah, Clock SF, such a good pairing, though.
Yeah. Go back to game 1. I think if they had a Clockwork instead of Omni Knight, that game is so easy. Like, they just win that game. Like, Clockwork gives them a second way to initiate. They're not all in relying on XXS to make plays and initiate. They have a way to, like, jump the Silencer. Their draft is just straight up better. I don't know. Was Clockwork banned, do they just prefer Omni?
It was ignored.
Yeah.
Because it was Omni 3rd pick, 16th pick. Yeah, that easily could have been in Clockwork for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to say these things in hindsight. Like, at the time, they're probably thinking, like, we got this sick draft. Like, we really protect our SF with Omni Knight. We know they love to play Bat Rider, so the Heavenly Grace feels like a nice counter. It just didn't pan out that way. And now they've kind of learned their lesson, probably.
Well, Drow Ranger, Morphling, they're the bans from Aster, so they're still leaving in your Nyx, your Bat Rider, some of these key heroes that Entity do love to play. There's also that threat of like the pure Naga Siren or something along those lines coming out.
Yeah, you can't just hone in on what beat you last game when it's a player like Pure who has such a diverse and unusual hero pool at times. Like, he's one of the players who kind of brought out some carry doom and some very wonky heroes in that carry role throughout the DPC season.
I'm kind of wondering what Aster's response to the Broodmother is going to be this time around. You know, they did decently with the Mars. We'll see if that's left in the pool by Entity or not. And what the hero pairing is going to be with the Shadow Fiend as well. You know, we've touched on that Pudge with the Shadow Fiend that Liquid have liked to do. Is there like an SF Terrorblade or an SF plus who?
Ooh, yeah, Pudge sounds great. I don't think you want to go too greedy. Like, Terrorblade just seems a bit too much greed. You can, I mean, they can try the all-in kind of push again if they want to. I don't think that was necessarily their idea until they got to the last pick. After seeing Morphling, they're like, okay, let's try beat this with a lone druid push. But I think having maybe a slightly more balanced draft makes sense. The Pudge seems really good. At that point, you've kind of answered the Broodmother. You've got, you know, guaranteed kind of BKB piercing disable. It's just a great hero to pair with the SF. The other consideration is maybe Beastmaster. It was banned out last game in the second phase. We'll see if it gets banned again, but it's a great hero that gives vision, BKB piercing disable again, and just gives you a lot of playmaking.
Oh, the Kataomi Sven's going to come out to play. Position for Sven up against the Shadow Fiend. Get that shard up, bonus armor, war cry looks very good, and a stun.
Yep. I think you're thinking we don't want to go all in physical damage. It was one of the things I had last game with SF Lone Druid. You see Sven, you know, Warcry's in play. You know, you're thinking, let's get a bit more balance and throw in some, you know, mixed damage, get some high magic damage mid laner, for example.
Yeah, we'll see what direction they go. They're thinking what they could pick up here. If the Shadow Fiend's flexible, you know, maybe I was thinking maybe like Storm, but then you're playing into Silencer, so a lot of these Spirit heroes feel a little wonky. Like, they can play around the global with, you know, BKBs or waiting out the cooldown, but if you're a Storm or an Ember and you jump in, you get globals, you're likely just going to die. Like, they go for the Omni again. They've got faith in it. And there's the Pudge. There we go.
Ah, remember Omni Pudge from 10 years ago? Oh, the good old days. Yeah. Rot taking 0 damage. Oh, it was every pub player loved to do this combo.
Oh, and you can still do it in ability draft, kinda. You get Blade Fury or you get Rage and you get Rot and you just charge people down.
I gotta play some ability draft, it sounds like.
Or Ability Arena. That's a pretty fun arcade game.
Okay. So Medusa, they were insta-pick this. I mean, SF Pudge has been such a common combo, they probably were anticipating a Pudge pick almost. But there hasn't been much Medusa, but you see this draft, and once again, it's going to be Entity kind of playing the stall game and trying to just buy time to go late game. There's less maybe pressure on their objectives. There's not like a secondary pushing core to go with the SF, but what Pudge gives them is a much more balanced draft.
Absolutely does. And out goes the Darkseer. Bat and Invoker. Yeah, 2 signatures there from Stormstormer removed as well. And it still feels like we need that playmaking, space-creating initiation hero for Stormstormer. Definitely curious to see what that hero is going to be, with so many of them being removed.
Feels like last game we got to the similar point where, well, at that point both teams needed mid laners and like every mid was being banned out. This time around, at least Aster already have the Shadow Fiend, so they're looking for their XXS hero for the offlane, and his heroes already got targeted in the second phase. So now there's like 6 offlaners banned out by Entity alone. So
well, it's like you look at Aster's ban, it's like pure / Stormstormer Lesh, pure Stormstormer Stormstormer. Like, these are very, very targeted bans.
I'm liking some of the pushing heroes. You've got 2 melee supports, getting like a Death Prophet or something. Feels pretty potent to me. Like, you can really push the tempo, and you've got a hero that can just run at towers and object. I mean, you're kind of doing the same strat as last game. Maybe they don't feel confident after they lost with like all-in push, but I see Medusa on the other side, and I'm just like, this hero does nothing for like 30 minutes.
And needs quite a bit of time. Needs stacks to be built up as well, which SF and Pudge are very good at contesting. Probably see a lot of fighting in the jungles around the build-up of the Ancients or the large camps. Well, 40 seconds remaining for Aster here to dip into their reserve time, really consider all the options. Lana having a chat with his squad. A beautiful curtain there in behind Entity. A pan down to Stormstormer.
There he is. Lovely lad. has lots of ideas about what this last pick could be. Obviously, it's the hero for him, so above all, it's probably going to be his final say when it comes to what that hero might be.
And Aster looks like they're struggling to come up with his final pick. 3 seconds remaining. You've got to click something.
You don't have to, Gareth. You could just not. You could just, random gyrocopter.
Yeah, you could. At least it's not a misclick gyro.
Team fight. Yeah, I guess seeing the Medusa, they go for a bit more greed. They get a hero that, a second hero that kind of addresses the Brood, and I think last game they ran this thing where it was like, okay, this game gets to a point late game where they can't win, and I feel like Magnus gives them the ability to like scale and just win these late game team fights pretty well.
Yeah, a good bit of catch. And try and isolate that Medusa like a blink horn toss, a blink skewer. Put that Medusa in a dangerous spot. They've got cogs, they've got hook from the Pudge as well. So some pretty good tools here to drag Entity around and put them in the reach of the Shadow Fiend. But here it comes. 30 seconds for Entity's final pick. Storm's hero, the last one left.
They need damage. Like, where's your damage coming from? Is it some kind of like Tinker or Timbersaw, Lina? Like, I just feel like Medusa is like this slow like AoE damage, and it takes some time to come online. They need like this mid lane burst. There we go, Tinker. Yes, that was the one I wanted most. I'm so happy to get a Tinker because I'm just looking at this like, what kills Tinker?
Nothing. I mean, there's a clock is the only way they can get on top of him.
Yeah, okay, they've got clockwork. At least in the past, that was considered enough. But these, I don't know. I think without the easy blink follow-up, I mean, you've got, I guess, Magnus and Pudge will eventually get blink, but it feels like a good enough Tinker game, and it solves so many of the problems their draft has. When you have Medusa Brood, your mid laner needs to be dishing out deeps when you've also, I mean, even the supports, Sven Silencer, these are not the best damage-dealing supports too.
Are they swapping up lanes here as Aster? I mean, Ori's on the Pudge and Monet is the Shadow Fiend. Is it a hero swap or a lane swap, I'm wondering?
Yeah, I mean, probably just the hero swap. Like, I wouldn't expect, I think maybe they're thinking Pudge can go mid, but we'll see. That's definitely an unusual one. I don't know. Monet played the SF versus Brood just fine before, so we'll see how this one goes.
Yeah, we'll see what happens coming into game 2 here. Entity up against Aster. Entity with that game advantage in this best of 2 for the group stage, and looking pretty good all the way through. As Stormer Tinker, definitely a specialist hero, has had quite a few changes. He's no longer the Tinker of old, with March of the Machines, Boots of Travel, things like that. He is a blink rush hero with a lot of spam, keeping those rockets and lasers bouncing around. As he's pretty quick to farm as well. And I'm definitely curious to see how they attribute this farm between Pure and Stormer, because there could be a bit of overlap where they're both getting a bit greedy in the jungle.
Yeah, I mean, for both sides, I guess the greed could maybe get the better of them with the Magnus last pick on Aster, but also for Entity, we saw last game Toby just have to sacrifice his own game a bit to guarantee that Pure's Morphling could do well. I think it's going to be a similar story with Medusa and Tinker, and we'll see who wins the battle between those two to farm up the stacks and the Ancients and whatnot. But I do imagine they give Pure priority. He's just so good at carrying these games when he's the win condition.
Yeah, he knows where he needs to be, what time. And here we go. See if Aster can pick themselves up after a very close game 1 loss. And Entity, wind beneath their wings, feeling themselves here. Storm is spinning around. I don't know. I don't see Tinker that much nowadays. Let's see if he does it again, but I think he's chilled for a second. He's like pivoting and swiftly. There we go. He's a helicopter. Arrgh.
He knows his Tinker. This man is perhaps more known for some of his other heroes like the Invoker or even the Mid-Visage, but he's quite the Tinker player as well, and he's going to be very happy, I think, to get this hero in game number 2.
Yeah, I mean, Entity really showing what can happen when you've got all these mechanical players with the captaincy of Fishman. And Kataomi, though, going to get scouted here as Baboka with a longer wraparound comes in behind the Sven. Ori with hook level 1 does catch out the Sven. A good Stormhammer, though, will hold them back for a second until the pummeling begins again. And the first blood going the way of Monet's Shadow Fiend.
Another game where they're getting this early first blood, and Shadow Fiend picking it up on a core, so they're going to be thrilled with the outcome there. Yeah, we'll see how Aster's lanes go. It does look like Monet's going to be playing the Shadow Fiend in the safe lane and putting the Pudge in mid. Just maybe expecting a bit more playmaking out of their mid lane. A hero that can contest and utilize runes, particularly with an active support like Clockwork. I think Aster just feeling like doing a mid SF is a bit too passive.
And maybe a better lane matchup as well with Pudge hooking and rotting creeps, not fully relying on the right clicks and building up necromastery. It can be a little bit annoying if you're getting lasered and trying to last hit or deny.
Yeah. If you get a hook on the Tinker too, it should be a kill, but easier said than done.
Now we'll see how it all plays out. Stormer, Tinker, Ori, Pudge. Already the first last hit coming in.
Yeah, had to do it. The laser, always annoying to last hit against, so Ori just throws out the meat hook and guarantees it for himself. As I don't think a lane where we'll see any kills early on unless there's like a big misplay from the Tinker where he gets hooked in. But until once those supports come rotating towards the mid lane and fighting over the runes, that's where the action's really gonna break out when it comes to this mid lane matchup.
And Toby looking a little worse for wear up top. Monet has spent the entirety of his mana pool to get raises on the Brood. As it looks like Baboka going to deward his small camp to get some pulls going. While Pure walking back away from XXS. Yeah, lots of lane dragging, manipulating these creep waves in both of the side lanes. Kataomi trying to farm behind enemy tier 1. Try and give this Medusa a bit of lane advantage. Farm closer to her tower so she's not being skewered around by this Magnus.
Yep. I feel like this is a bit of a throwback with the Magnus into Medusa. Like, at least in the SA region, back when Medusa was still meta, which lasted for a long time, a lot of teams started to kind of play around this idea of Magnus in the offlane because your high base damage just allows you to contest so much of the Medusa's farm.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense in the mid game as well. Like, Medusa is one of those heroes that, she's not a fog hero. She is a show on the map. Hey, I'm in a creep wave. Hey, I'm in front of your tier 1 kind of hero. So having a displacement tool from the skewer, add in the hook. Lots of ways to catch out Pure. Already having to spend a lot of HP and mana down bottom just to stay in the lane, but does have a stick and some tangos being handed over by Kataomi.
Sure. Collapse of team spirits watching some of these games like, oh, Magnus, is he meta again? Let's go.
I'll enjoy that. Mid lane going pretty boring, right? Farm trade,
Yeah.
No one's doing anything. Get some water runes. Yeah, hook it across with a bottle refill.
They're both sitting on full health and yeah, not too much cooking out of this one. Pudge has to use some rod occasionally to try last hit because of the laser, but all in all, Pudge farming just fine.
A nice little move by Monet up top. Going to drag the melee creeps onto the range creep to look for the deny. Doesn't get it though. Toby just that little bit quicker. Throws out his Silken Bowler.
Shockwave skewer bottom. They pulled Kataomi in, forcing out a Stormhammer.
He's got Fairy Fire.
Okay.
Looks like he's all right. Dire Pull contested. Radiant Wave now meeting with that tier 1 bottom. So free farm for XXS, and this is always an awkward spot for the Medusa. You want to play forward, you want to harass, get some denies, but you also don't want to get played under this tier 1.
I like what Ori's doing. He's venturing away from the mid lane every now and then on his Pudge and just hooking a neutral camp creep to get a bit of extra golden experience.
Oh, nice.
Just little efficiency plays from him.
Yeah, every little helps. All those small advantages. And down bottom lane is just Siamese Cat chasing this Sven over and over again. Hammer of Purity, Hammer of Purity. Trying to force out Storm Hammers. As a Magnus Skewer catching out Pure for a second, but it's just harassment damage. No real kill threat. You're just trying to burn through resources, burn through a bit of regen, make sure life is uncomfortable for your opponents.
Pure even item drops for the stick value there. Dude, these young players with their mechanics sometimes just playing unafraid, and doesn't look like we'll be seeing any kind of early action in any of these side lanes. Aster already with the first blood gold, so first blood's being claimed, but they're going in on... No, they're not going in on the SF. Just kidding. Just throwing out spells.
Yeah, back and forth. But yeah, you're right about Pure. Something I noticed, I don't think I brought it up, the Morphling game, he's like always tread swapping. You know, it's something that it feels like some of these pro players don't bother with anymore, honestly. It's like, yeah, whatever. But there's some people that really highly prioritize it, especially on certain heroes. You know, like Morphling Medusa. Think back to the old anti-mage days. You need that mana pool.
Yep. I mean, there's definitely a benefit to be gained. I think that the added benefit is also, like, it just keeps you locked in and really focused. Like, if you're trying to do every little thing right, it just means, you know, you're going to be in the right kind of mindset for the game.
Yeah, perfection is perfection. Kataomi shockwaved. Another contest on this pull.
They really want to contest this. He's putting his life in quite a bit of danger there, but playing around the Fairy Fire. Salve comes out now as well, so bit of a regen battle down in this bottom lane between the Sven and the Aster offlaners.
Yeah, I mean, what? Little Captain Omni Knight. Trying to move into mid with Ori's Pudge, though. Look and Dismember used. Turn around on the tower with laser. Everything falling short of actual kills. Just chipping away at people.
Yep. Yeah, no big rotations towards mid lane whatsoever, but 6-minute rune coming up, so you'd maybe expect something now. They get the D ward on the high ground, so it's going to be hard for Radiant to contest these runes. They are bringing over Kataomi, but it does seem like if Tinker wants a rune, he's going to have to pray it spawns in this top lane. So both teams kind of splitting up, and it'll be a bit of an RNG battle.
Oh, haste for Pudge.
Oh,
sprinting
the
bottom.
one rune. Pure's in trouble. He's got to get back to his tower pronto. This may just be a kill here.
Yeah, looks like it might be. Shockwave to set it up. And Ori coming forward. Has Dismember. Pure with a full stick there. Gets a bit of mana back. And the laser rockets from Tinker doing a bit of damage into Ori and XXS. But in the end, the final hook will kill off Pure. But Stormer, he takes down Ori first and nearly finishes off the Magnus.
Just got it off with the rearm for the extra layer of lasers, and the bottle just giving him the mana for it. I can't believe they actually got the kill on the Pudge first. But Pure's probably just like, man, that's the one rune that could have killed me. He, you know, as a carry player, you know that that mid laner picks up that rune, and you've got this kind of like mental clock where it's like, okay, I can farm 1 or 2 more creeps, then I'll back off to my tower until the mid laner shows. But haste just kind of screwed up that timing of it all. But honestly, a trade in the end that at least slightly favors Entity.
I mean, what is it? It's a 1 in 6, right? A 1 in 6 chance he gets that haste. That's the difference maker. No. Monet. Well, they already forced Fishman to TP back defensively, and they're going to go for another round onto the silencer. Siamese Cat traversing all the way from bottom lane up to top to help out there, but now the dive coming in. Tinker's arrived, and Toby's diving onto Monet. The razors come, but the Stormhammer, a good one. Kataomi lands it onto 2, and the rockets just flurrying out onto Team Aster to get 2 big kills for Entity.
Yeah, Tinker with this super fast Blink Dagger didn't go for any kind of boots or anything with it. You don't really even need the brown boots here when you've got this mobility with the rearm. He's going for the Soul Ring next, so already we're seeing this super active Tinker. TP bottom and now the TP top, helping turn around some of these ganks.
Yeah, such a different hero nowadays. No more stacking and farming ancients. No more universal damage. We are now all about blinking and shooting out these rockets. I'm kind of curious to see what he goes afterwards, though, because I don't think we've really found ourselves a spot for Tinker to have like locked in items in pro games anyway. But you start considering the kind of Scythe of Ice, Ether Lens, that kind of thing later on down the line.
We'll see what the build's going to be. I've definitely not seen much pro tinkering in some time, but probably will be, you know, pretty standard stuff like you mentioned. Like eventually there may be a Scythe of Ice. Maybe you consider like some of the Dagons of old if you feel like you're lacking damage, like against the Pudge, Magnus. Like there's a lot of tankiness on this Aster side as well.
I think the usual things have been like Shivers, Overwhelming Blink, and then they're kind of core-ish items. Then I don't know, everything's a luxury item on Tinker because he can rearm. It feels like anything is going to pay off for him. Omni Knight surrounded. Hunted down in his own jungle as he did get a D ward off. And now the pressure is on your tier 1 top though, as Toby closing in on level 6 and will start amassing the spider army.
Yeah, I feel like the Tinker just synergizes really well with the Broodmother because it's this hero with, the spider army that can pressure these objectives. If you try and defend it, you have this Tinker who can always TP in, TP on those spiders, and offer this huge amount of kill threat to anyone defending early towers.
Just hide in the fog, wait in the trees. Radiant even scanning behind their own tier 1 to try and figure out where Aster are lurking. XXS attempting the shockwave and skewer. Rocket flare, does that give the vision on Stormstorm? It does for the RP. Stormstorm was blinked incorrectly. Tries to get out now, but Ori, he's here with a dismember. Stop the TPE from completing. And a huge kill on Stormstorm's Tinker there. Aster going to be breathing a sigh of relief.
Just that little slip up. He blinked into them in the end. He already blinked back to safety, and if he'd blinked left or just TP'd in place, he would have been fine. But
yeah,
gives away his life there, and Aster in the right place at the right time, get the punish and want this tier 1 bottom tower. But does look like Entity at least rotating in the Sven to try and defend this. With Tinker back alive, maybe they stand a chance to keep it alive, but just feels like it's not going to be in time.
Yeah, it's a little too slow. I did take down the tier 1 top quickly though, and Toby, he's moving swiftly towards the tier 2, and of course now has access to all of these jungle camps very freely. So Toby in the previous game had a bit of a slow one, but it looks like here in game 2 going to be able to build his items much faster, get those auras up and online.
Yeah, it does feel like Brood's in for a much better game, and as for the side of Aster, it's a bit of a slower game compared to last, but at this same time, they're not really on a timer. I think that's what this Magnus pick really gave them, this way to scale and this way to kind of take some of these big late game team fights.
I think that's the key thing, right? Knowing game 1, the way that went, team fighting is so important. Having catch, having kill opportunity, and scaling with big AoE team fight ultis, it's always been the TI special, hasn't it?
Yeah. I imagine the call was like, let's make sure all the catches not on one player with the Mars of XXS. They've got the Baboka Clockwork, so they've got kind of 2 key ways of initiating alongside the Magnus. And even the Pudge, eventually you'll probably see Ori with a Blink Dagger. Has got the Ag speed up for now, but the easier it is to start a fight, the easier Dota feels when you're playing it.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
What's Pure been up to the past couple of minutes? Farming? Hitting Ancients?
Oh, it's Medusa. Yeah, of course.
Good stuff.
Love and life. This is the carry player's dream, you know. Medusa's back in the meta. Actually, I think a lot of carry players do not like playing Medusa. She's a pretty boring carry. Like, she just farms, and you don't really feel like you dish out damage as a Medusa. It's like this very slow damage, so you kind of got to group with your team and slow roll things, so we'll see. Medusa, probably, you know, standard items. Yasha, Dragonlance, yeah, Scotty queued up. No need for a Linken's this game, per se.
And just try and replicate that 6-minute Roche fight where you've got one hero that's your carry with all these items staying alive. Kataomi under his ward, trying to protect it here. And Aster TPing top, looking for Toby. No RP, and the hook lands. Ori trying to catch up to this Broodmother. The Global Silence giving a little bit of wiggle room for the Toby Brood, but the Shockwave back. Is that enough? There's no Dismember still. Ori, he's hunting and looking for it, but he can't find his pesky Broodmother back into the tree line.
Came close going through the trees, but yeah, couldn't quite latch on. I sort of love to find that pickoff. I mean, you're kind of playing this slower, greedy pace. Any pickups you can get with these ultimates. You don't mind a one-hero RP, but elsewhere, Baboka getting low, but has the backup of the Omni Knight to get him back to safety, and Aster just going to slow things down, go back to farming. Their SF kind of mirroring what the Medusa's doing, which is just farming up the triangle, farming Ancients. Has gone the Mask of Madness build this game, unlike last game's SF, and I think makes a ton of sense given the draft they've got.
I'm still looking back on this Omni Knight, though, and it kind of feels like the amount of priority Aster putting on it, it seems like this is their idea of an answer to this Silencer, this Brood. Maybe even, we've seen it as an answer to Undying. The fact that like every zombie attack stack gives a stack of Heavenly Grace, lots of stacks in that one. Because this, the way Heavenly Grace works, you know, against the Silencer, he's going to put 2-3 spells on you. A Broodmother puts a couple of spells on you, got Laser on you, all of a sudden you've got 5 stacks of this strength and HP regen. You've got these tanky heroes all of a sudden.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I think from that point of view, it makes a lot of sense as long as you can get those spells off, because the Global Silence is the big one, and
yeah,
you got to imagine similar to last game, they're going to be jumping and trying to burst down this Omni Knight at the start of every fight. Last game, Siamese Cat kind of struggled to position himself such that he could stay alive.
Get some Lotuses, save your Omni. Yeah, 4-4 at 14 minutes. Definitely been A walk in the park for both these teams. No real action, no real chaos.
Yep.
Pudge looking to finish off his Aghanim Scepter in about 1,000 gold. But a skewer back on the Sven, opening things up for Aster to try a pick. BoBoKa has hookshot in a second, but it wasn't up fast enough. So a jump, a retreat, a reset, and back to farming we go.
Yeah, both teams really just chilling. Pure on the Medusa, Monet on the SF. Pretty even in terms of net worth. Both two have just been kind of doing the save movements just on the opposite sides of the map. Aster have tried a couple times to pick off this Brood, but great plays by Toby, just being so elusive in these trees.
Yeah, good stacking from Entity, building things up for Pure. Trying to close the gap on the Shadow Fiend, who is top of the net worth right now with Mask of Madness, Dragonlance. Feeling pretty free just to push out the bottom wave with 3 heroes just above him in the jungle.
Most of this net worth difference seems to be coming from the other cores, like the 2 carries of both teams, even on farm, but Brood as well as Tinker falling behind a little bit.
Yeah, just a touch. And Tinker's going to be able to clear up some of this unsafe stuff down at bottom, but you're always going to be very wary of warding here. You know, a high ground ward, a Tinker ward in particular. And they are named as such to catch this fella himself. With a Clockwork and a Pudge, there are ways to get in on top of him. And BoBoKa, he's going to get on top of the Silencer. Opting to go straight for Fishman this time around. The global utilized, and Fishman's still alive. Stormhammer now from Kataomi. In a turnaround RP, but the hook back.
Oh, the hook.
Ori drags away the Magnus. So Entity with a chance to regroup and move back in towards the Pudge. Leads her in with a blink from Stormer. Ori getting healed up. Has a ton of saves from this Omni Knight. And Monet with what looked like a defensive Requiem. Try and fear back Entity because they're giving chase on the BoBoKa still. Rockets flying, not dead just yet. Everyone spends every single spell and not a single casualty of Raw yet. Another hook missing out, a whiff from Ori, and the heals Max Excess onto the Magnus. Try and keep him alive while they dismember and devour up the Broodmother. Tasty protein for Pudge to build up. Some stacks of his flesh heap, while Pure trapped inside the cogs. Try and break him free. BoBoKa stunned up. And a final touch from Fishman, looking to clear him out. The rocket, is that landing onto the Clockwork? It is. No amount of heals from the Omni Knight will secure his safety. So a 1-for-1 trade in that fight.
So many spells used, like 10k damage. Look at that, 10k damage from Entity, and all they killed was a Clockwork.
Wow.
The sustain, the tankiness of Pudge, of Omni Knight, what he brings to the table. They messed up a bit with the RP, trying to, you know, the Pudge hooking out the Magnus there was not what they had in mind. And luckily, I think for Aster, they were able to kind of disengage using that Requiem and reset for the Brood kill under the tower, because Entity, I think, felt like they had something going. That's why they wanted to chase there.
When do we start thinking about Roshan? Oh, it's XXS. Oh, he uses his Horn Toss. It looked like he wanted to try and blink, but it maybe got cancelled. There's Ori. Gets a catch on the Fishman. Silencer yet again surviving with a sliver of HP. Kataomi trapped in the cogs of BoBoKa. Hunted down by the clock and the Pudge and finally finished off, but again it's going to be the 1-for-1 trade, and Aster the ones losing out on this. The rocket spam, very apparent, is an issue that they can't contend with.
Yeah, this Pudge is getting constantly chipped away at and can't really get close enough to the Tinker. Clockwork's their catch, but he's also kind of been the one initiating on the front line, so unable to really save his spells for this Tinker, and unable to really get the farm that allows himself to stay alive. Trying to get to an Ag Scepter with a Philosopher's Stone. That's an amazing item for BoBoKa's Clockwork. That's going to help him actually get up to some of these late game items.
Could you remind us what overclocking does now? Because it changed a little bit from the refresh it used to give, right?
What are we looking at?
Rocket flares?
Oh yeah, the rocket flares reduce cooldown. You get the additional rockets and hookshot. The stun radius and durations also increased. And similarly, you still get stunned when the duration wears out. But yeah, the rocket flares, the vision is kind of like, to me, the big part of it.
Yeah, there's triple rocket flares flying out, very handy against the Tinker. Because vision, we talk about catch, we talk about kill potential, but really it's vision that undoes Tinker's game plan for the most part.
Yeah, being able to scout him out, like, I don't think you're too worried about some of the other stuff. The battery assault affecting everyone's kind of nice if there's, like, summons and stuff. There is Brood Spiderling, so maybe the battery assault one is actually going to be kind of big as well.
Well, area of Roshan looks like it's controlled by Entity, pushing out top to tier 2. And 4 heroes from the Ancients, kind of using it as a platform to hold on. But tier 1 being taken down by Aster now gives them an opportunity to invade. Get across there, stop Pure from farming Ancients, get themselves into a position to maybe think about Roshan themselves, because we're 20 minutes in, and nobody's really poked their heads in the pit yet.
Definitely a little bit of a tricky one, but it does feel like Aster at some point will have the tools to do so, but Medusa coming online with a Skadi fairly soon. That's going to definitely help Entity maybe build their team fight around this Deuce a bit better. They have to protect their Tinker. That's the big thing, though.
Storm are playing with fire a little bit there, aren't you? Sees the Ori Pudge, goes for the wave clear. And nearly has a Shiver's Guard, so there's that second core item after the blink coming very shortly for him.
Yeah, the fact SF has been able to keep up and even ever so slightly ahead of the Medusa is a good sign for Aster's late game. Not to mention these other cores who are farming incredibly well, respectively.
Yeah, XXS with Blink, Falcon Blade, working on an Ether Lens now.
It's Entity in the Roshan pit. Aster, they've scouted Aster on this bottom side of the map. They see all these heroes and they go into Roshan. It's a little bit slow, but they're using the lasers, they're using the Medusa to try and bring this one down. But here come Aster. They've scouted this out with the rocket flare and they'll get Entity out of the pit.
Oh, did you see if that rocket blew up before the smoke or after? I'm not quite sure.
Not sure either.
Aster might not know about this. Smoke breaks though. High ground ward. It belongs to the Radiant.
Yeah, they're playing a little bit without vision on the Aster side. It is daytime, and they're going to play around these pseudo high grounds around the mid lane, not wanting to go back to their own cliff. They know that's where Entity are, so they're going to actually take over this Radiant triangle. They have to keep throwing out rocket flares, though. They need to maintain vision of the pit with how low Roche just got.
Yeah, they're in a good spot to cut mid-wave, maybe cut top as well. As Entity re-smoke. Toby, smoke breaks. They know Baboka's nearby. Gives away his positioning. A hook. Slides past the backside, but there's XXS with the horn toss into Dismember, but the global stance gives the cover, the safety for Entity now. Start opening up and kill off Baboka. Requiem, the Fear, pushing back the Broodmother now, and Ori grabs up the kill. And blinks forward. He's aggressively moved. The RP from XXS, it catches Stormstormer, but Pure is still going. I don't know if he's got the damage it'll take, though, as Aster will come in with a crushing victory around Roshan.
Oh, these Clockwork Hookshot initiations, he just goes in the silencer and forces out Global Silence. Like, that's not really the ideal time to use Global. It's like a little bit too rushed too soon, but if he doesn't use it, he just dies, and he knows it. So he's just trying to make sure he gets his spells out. And the result is the rest of the Aster team, like, are freed up to basically get everything off. Like, this Omni Knight is not being pressured at all. It's a complete opposite story compared to last game where it felt like Siamese, every single fight was, getting jumped on. This time around, Aster are the team getting the jump.
Yeah, beautifully done. And that Guardian Angel at the very last moment there to keep Ori alive. It looked like he was about to die with that aggressive blink forward, but it all pays off in the end.
Yeah.
And yeah, your comment about the Shadow Fiend's net worth, it's only skyrocketing even further now. The fact that he is so far ahead, on par or ahead of this Medusa, feels incredibly good.
Yep. It really just feels like Medusa's the lone scaling hero for now, at least. And Brood, going for all these teamfight aura items, her story's not going to change too much. They've got the Skewer back on Dusa.
And they've got disabled, but she got off her Stone Gaze. Pure may be able to scurry away from the SF as the lasers and rockets landing in onto Siamese Cat. And Monet, yes, he holds Aegis and has BKB, but it looks like he's going to die the first time here without really doing too much. Toby skewered again away while Ori sat at half health, and a hook shot coming on through. There's Baboka onto 2. Pure and Fishman zoned away by the cogs, and Ori blinking into the Dismember. A good Stormhammer counterplay from Katomi, but Monet shredding through the Medusa with a pure physical damage of the Shadow Fiend takes him down, and Entity getting crushed here now in game 2.
Yeah, just getting so much sustain. Like, the Tinker's doing what he can to spam out these spells, but with Omni Knight just sitting back and having this unpressured game, Entity just lacking that ability to really initiate him with their 3 cores. And they're not done. Whoa, what an RP!
The jump onto them, XXS finds the opening with a Requiem play behind. Monet, another 2 kills to the way of Aster. And a tier 2 tower for them to take. There's the cherry on top.
This beautiful Team Dota. we're seeing what they had in mind with game 1 with the Omni-Knight pick. It's really coming to fruition here, even though got punished in game number 1. And I think we're seeing the limitations of this Tinker pick is just the lack of initiation between their 3 cores, Tinker, Medusa, Brood. How do you start a fight? Sven is also not starting fights. He's playing around the Warcry and sitting back. There's no Blink Dagger or anything. So for Entity, their draft just needs to be, I think, just playing a bit more passive and not trying to force these fights as much until they get these big late game items, because it's so easy for Aster when they're the ones getting the jump.
Yeah, I mean, what was that? 28,000 damage by the Tinker done so far is a tremendous amount, but yeah, you're chipping away, but if you don't get the killing blows on anyone, that's where the struggles begin. And then immediate D-ward there. Aster, remove the vision, skewer back, 3 of them. A beautiful play from XXS, but the global maybe giving a bit of cover here for Entity to bring someone down. They just can't do it though. The Guardian Angel has given that defensive tool across to the Pudge and the Omni Knight, and now allowing for the chase forward. Awaken with another sick hook shot, finds the Tinker, and Monet, he's got his BKB going. This looks like it might be lights out for Entity in game 2. As Pure is surrounded. Mana Shield will only last so long, and Monet grabs a triple kill.
XXS doing his best collapse impression this game, just finding skewer after skewer, using the Horn Toss to great effect as well, and just no response from the Entity side. Once that hook shot finds the Tinker, that's all their damage gone. This Medusa is this nice frontline tank and keeps people in place a bit with the Skadi Slow, but without the Tinker, they just don't have damage at all in the Entity draft.
And that's a 3-man skewer without RP, which is pretty wild from XXS. Yeah. And Aster this time looking for the lane of barracks. A missed attempt there with the Horn Toss and the hook. XXS and Ori will instead turn and bring down the buildings.
20k gold lead and a first lane of racks. They'll fall back. No Roshan for quite some time here, but as Aster have just shown, they don't really need this Aegis to play around. As long as they're the ones with a skewer initiation or hook or a blink pudge going in, they're the ones controlling these fights.
Come on then. I dare you. D-ward. Anyone? The spider lanes.
Spiders, they're on it.
I mean, Shockwave and Rot though.
And yeah, the Rot from the low ground with the Ags, yeah.
Dire's top tower is under
Amazing amount of damage. Yeah, after Aster take bot lane, push out the mid. This is where they can draw that line across from top triangle down to the bottom right corner, saying, hey, we hold them in, close the net in around Entity, maybe even grab this DD rune, go and make a fight happen. There's no Roshan for at least 3 minutes.
No bottle, unfortunately. The mid lane Pudge had one, but didn't want to, was too far away to pass it over, so they'll just look for some kind of initiation, but I don't think Entity are going to have any interest in taking a fight outside of their base, unless it's for something like Roshan, maybe.
That's exact.
Pure trying to find what little farm there is out on the map. Taking out the top jungle with a bit of backup from Kataomi. Boca going to come in and scout them out, though. Oh, they don't see Pure, do they? Gets the TP home. And this is a small victory. And if all they lose is the Sven.
They'll take that one. They get out clean. They buy some more time. They want to get up this Tinker BKB as well as Medusa needing to build in some damage items. I think recognizing you can't just rely on the Tinker in these fights. He's being zoned away because of the threat that Clockwork, Magnus, and Pudge pose to him. So Medusa going into a Daedalus now to try and start scaling. But it's not just their farm. The levels are just a little bit lackluster. Medusa only level 16, and it's not quite getting up there in terms of the late game scaling.
The rocket flares. Oh, the hook. They find the Tinker in the trees. The counter to Storm's Tinker. The kill given over to Ori. And Tinker dead for 50 seconds. Does not want to buy back because he needs BKB to keep having any form of impact in these fights.
And that's where the Axe for Clockwork can pay off. He's just spamming out these triple rockets, and you find a Tinker and Pudge finishes off the job.
3-second cooldown on those rockets. Oh, the hook. It catches Fishman. It slides straight behind, and the Magnus, he's still got RP to play with here. The Fear pushes back the Medusa and the Sven, and Pure going to try for the TP home. Can he get away? He can. The hook shot will connect on Kataomi instead. Double buyback from Entity, but With Sven dead and Pure having to run back, no chance to fight, it feels like they're just going to have to give another lane of barracks to Aster.
Yeah. I'm trying to fight into this now without buybacks is just so damn scary. The Tinker buying back means this BKB is just not
They've
coming out.
called it.
They just... There you go.
Fair enough, honestly.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, it's a little surprising still. Like, they still had 4 alive, including their, their 2 cores. I mean, I don't think they actually have a real shot to win this outside of like some big throws, but it still does kind of come a bit out of nowhere with the GG.
I mean, it kind of feels like that's a Pure call saying, hey, I'm on this deucer. I just really don't feel like I'm going to be able to carry this one.
Yep. I mean, at some point, it's like, we talked about it at the start of the day. Obviously, we experienced yesterday. These days are long. Group stages are grueling. You play a lot of games, and probably they're thinking, like, this is their, 4th game of today, and they've got to play 2 more later on. At some point, they're